stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyaparekh.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Parekh.
Good morning, listeners. Of course, it's Tuesday, and I love being here. So I want to ask you a question. You may be thinking, I'm too late in joining the AI bandwagon. And here's what I'll tell you. It's never too late. So if you're thinking about that, and if you have that fear, it is super important that you take that fear and just let it out. Because AI is still not where it's supposed to be. Yes, it is in our day-to-day lives. And if you have any qualms or any questions about it, I invite you to get my book, The AI Agency, and it will help you get situated in a way which is grounding and getting you ahead of the game. So thank you to each and every one of you who have got our books and supported us in our venture of supporting other entrepreneurs through kiva.org. We appreciate you. And if you have not got, we'll appreciate if you can get one of our books and support us. So let's bring in our guest.
Good morning.
Welcome, Holly.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. And here's a question. What would you say one or two are remarkable moments of your life where either it was someone or a situation or an insight that left a positive mark on you?
I would say that I have a couple, but once you know what I did with my life, it makes a little more sense why they're meaningful. But at the age of 3, I established a core competency, actually, because I witnessed my mother in a transaction with a couple of Girl Scouts at the front door when I was 3, and proceeded to go next door the next day in my pajamas with no product, ring the doorbell, and proceed to try and sell Girl Scout cookies and get paid. So nobody noticed what that really meant, but I have to laugh now. Another thing that occurred was my family drove across country like 4 times in 4 years. And my mother sat in the back seat with a toddler and a new baby, and I sat in the front seat and I navigated. So from the age of 10, I was reading the map and telling my dad what highway to take next and reading all the signs going across country. And it really established a sense of how big the U.S. is and how to map out a journey, also formative. And just one more thing was we visited the World's Fair when I was 12. And he was an executive. My dad was an executive with General Electric's computer division. And they had a profound pavilion at the World's Fair in Flushing Meadows, New York. So it was, this geodesic dome that showed the kitchen of the past from 1890 to the present with all the GE equipment. And there was 60 cultural pavilions from 60 different countries. And it just blew my mind. And I even saw the Michelangelo's The Pieta. And the Vatican brought oodles of Renaissance paintings. I mean, it was mind-boggling. So my world went from the U.S. is big to the world is big and interesting, and a great verve and joy for cultural anthropology formed in me. So those were the 3 things that I could say were really helpful.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you've had as very, very remarkable moments that shaped your life. And even to the extent, I love the story, of course, about the Girl Scout. It is so cute. I can imagine seeing that little one going and just knocking on the door and Shaping her career.
Yeah. So, would you like me to just go on?
Well,
Or
so
I
as
have
you
to have a question?
continued,
Pardon me? So,
in your life journey,
um, I really felt like I was emotionally abused by the time I was 17. And I I left home and leapt off a cliff of sheltered privilege and landed straight in the ocean of patriarchy, which was pretty exciting. But I studied for a year with a Zen master, and it has been the formative foundation for my life ever since. That studying was, irreplaceable. And because I became pregnant, I had to leave college, but that was freeing because I was intolerant of structured curriculums and linear learning models. I just didn't like it. So I traveled the South Pacific with my son for 7 years and ended up in New Zealand and in Fiji and worked in journalism there and managed merchandise manager for a chain of bookstores, and finally came and married there and had a beautiful daughter, and then moved back to the States, where ironically I took a position as an administrator for a brand new chain of computer stores that opening the month the IBM PC hit the market. And that company was called Businessland. You may remember. They went national. Eventually, they had 103 stores coast to coast. And I moved from as administrator for one of the branches into sales fairly quickly, and then into executive account and corporate account management in what was the Silicon Desert. So that launched me on a journey in a business that I profoundly sort of understood because of my father's profession, although it was, osmosis, I guess. So my stock, 2 years later, there was a management malfeasance that occurred where IBM had released the Seagate drives, moving from 2 floppy drives to hard drives, and they all failed nationwide. They withdrew the product. I had $300,000 in POs from Motorola, and they couldn't deliver product. But the manager wanted to take the account direct and not pay any commission to me, and began harassing me. So I left, and I went over to Computerland's major account division, and I moved all my business with me to Computerland's major account division, continued to, excel, and became sort of headhunted out by 9X Business Information Systems Group, and moved my book of business again to 9X, where I continued to fulfill on Motorola, Dial Corp, Codex. And so this is tech to tech sales. Okay, my clients are all tech. And
sales is sales, doesn't matter. So,
true.
And here's the thing, that you are in a very competitive environment, because sales, even today, I've got several clients from the sales, like, the leadership executives and all that. But it is very competitive, especially if you're trying to get on the leaderboard and all that. So even in that competitive environment, what are some of the ways, if our listeners are thinking, what is the way to build that credibility and trust?
Well, the only advantage I had was that women are trusted more than men in business. So I leveraged that. I also threw away the corporate playbook that was fostered down my throat at sales meetings every week, including the quota. I didn't allow it to, we know we live in a world that teaches women and men that they're not entitled to creative agency. And yet I would not be stopped. And I applied my own creative agency to to the relationship building with corporate executives and the delivery. So one of the things I did was I would assess their divisional 5-year goals with my clients and design a staged approach. This strategy inevitably would lead to 5 years of sales, because I would write the map for them to attain their goals, and then I would fulfill on delivering and training equipment, hardware, software, maintenance agreements, everything to grow the business, to support it. Because, in my view, it's always an intangible. You may think you're selling a widget or a thing, but what we're really offering is an intangible solution, an intangible feeling and experience, and using hardware, and in this case software, to offer intelligence in ways corporations were not able to search and report, get it coming off a mini or a mainframe computer. This distributed networking that I installed gave them software that they just never saw before. So they could use DBase 3, they could use Excel, Lotus 123 in the early days. They had word processing, and I had to know more than the engineers that were my clients. I had to be smarter than they were, and I studied. I loved the business, so I read everything, and I had to establish my position as knowing more than they did early on, or they would just, oh, it's a woman. And so I did that really good. I got really good at doing that right away.
So what's standing out for me, Holly, is that how you asked them for what was their 5-year plan. You invested in the client's vision, you invested in what were their needs, and you sat down and created that roadmap that would help them be successful over those 5 years. So it sounds like very much that it was a win-win situation, because you mapped out that charter for them. They could see, oh yeah, here we can be here in 5 years, but then I need Holly's structure. I need Holly's software, maintenance, whatever is needed. So that's marrying the two in a beautiful way where both are complementing each other.
I think my peers were basically in it for themselves mostly. They were solving the immediate problem and not looking beyond. And that's where I lived. I lived in the beyond. And the clients came to know that. So, it was heady. And I, for 10 years, did that for 9X Business Information Systems Group. And I actually penetrated IBM's stranglehold on academic sales to universities and the huge Maricopa County Community College District. I took all the business from IBM in 2 universities and 1 community college district with 10 campuses. So then I was really more or less viewed as a technology executive and enterprise account operator with, an incredible amount of channel growth. And because the clients moved with me from Businessland to Computerland to 9X, and then I expanded the territory with higher education, IBM came to me and offered me a job as a marketing consultant, which is the highest position they offer to anybody, to help them recapture a market I had taken from them because of their arrogance. Now, granted, they were endowing these colleges with money, with grants to buy and place these enormous networks into computer labs for staff, as well as, the 60,000 students at ASU. So that was gratifying. I was kind of a ninja in this field, quite frankly. And I was kind of exhausted too.
So let's talk about that exhaustion, because so many times what happens is that, as you mentioned, you looked beyond than the immediate problems. What were some of the areas that that you were pushing yourself that created that exhaustion?
Well, I was the only woman I knew in Phoenix that was working at this level that had children. Everyone else was either single or married. So I was trying to manage a family at the same time. That was exhausting. And overcoming some of the bullying also became exhausting. And I was really, really tired. I actually developed Epstein-Barr virus, where once it was identified, I think I slept for 3 months and just let it go. I just let it go, basically, for about a year. And then I went back in as director of sales and marketing for a boutique small company that, installed the brand new Cisco routers that really expanded enterprise processing. I managed their warehouse where they did cabling and large accounts like Franklin Covey I brought in, and sports division. And, I worked again. And then I was also headhunted out by ESS Connect after 9/11, was developing a software language that married the silos between emergency services, police, courts, everything that 9/11 revealed in terms of an inability for, cities and towns and states to communicate between one another. So that was very rewarding time for me. And I have a note here to myself about how I did that. I really just kept moving forward. So it's been an exciting time. I have to say, I don't think we really know how difficult things are till we get the other side of it and look back and go, how did I do that? So I probably had a lifetime career portfolio of 156 million. It's been estimated. I was definitely one of the leaders in tech in Arizona. So very gratifying, very exhausting, huge amount of skills involved. And so I inevitably started a little marketing company where I wrote website content for small businesses and collected a bunch of designers and programmers. And, we acted as a collaborative group and went into companies and I just project managed it. And that was rewarding too. But finally, I became really frustrated with my life and bored and too domestic. And I was about 56 and I'm like, what is mine to do? I've been putting everybody else's world first and creating all this opportunity out there wherever I could. And what is mine to do? And that's when I had an epiphany that led me to start writing poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned the poetry was pretty much around the circumstances women experience societally.
So that was your let out. And while during the years, if you were to rewind it back, how would you say, do you feel that you had lost your sense of self during those years?
No, I would say that my sense of self was defined by a channel management process where, I was just way out front in my thinking all the time. And I was way, I was just not like, I had lived in Fiji. It's peaceful. I loved it. It's so humanly, it supports human development to be in a peaceful setting. I came back to the States. I was like, oh, this is like anti-human, this lifestyle. And I dove right into it. So I've had to sort of unravel a personality that developed along the lines that.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people, there are times when you can reinvent your career, and at times you have to stay in the corporate or wherever in the situation where you're at? I mean, of course, there's always a choice, but sometimes the choice are dictated by family and circumstances. So, what would you say to our audience how to preserve their sense of self during those years?
More personal time, more downtime, meditation, turning everything off, stopping, deconstructing. I believe that our creativity really flows in. And that's what happened. I deconstructed when I was so frustrated.
Mhm.
I deconstructed my life radically and then waited with that question, what is mine to do? If anyone's listening, as I spoke to the ceiling of my office, I need you to bring it now. And I won't be moving till you do.
Mhm.
So I employed the spirit world, if you like, the
Mhm.
universe to, because I had witnessed this industry grow, at least from the, PC side from the beginning. And I was very aware that we were connecting humanity together by wiring before we got our sense of sort of intuitive knowing working better. And that all of these engineers I worked with were born in with this capacity to do this work, to program drips and drops of data in the form of, zeros and ones electronically from machine language up into software, into COBOL, into, what we have today what we have today in AI is simply a sophisticated database with a lot of algorithms buried in it.
Yeah.
It's no different than DBase was 30
Right.
years ago.
So what I'm hearing is like unplugging and deconstructing while you're in the thick and thin of it. So it's not that like, I'll go and relax somewhere in the future in my life. It could be like vacation. It has to be built every day, in and day out. And you mentioned that you had several successes in your executive life. So what can people do to move into leadership while building those relationships that are meaningful and creating influence?
uh, you know, the most important thing is to operate from the golden rule. You will never step out of your integrity. You will never offer something to someone knowing that you would not offer it to yourself. You will not hide, bury revenue streams one inside another. You will, everything is transparent. I worked at that level. There was no, uh, I was, there was just nothing that was out of integrity in the work that I did. And the men that I worked with, for them, it was just a game, and it was constantly, watching them step on their own foot all the time because they were manipulative. And so my word to my clients was my bond. They knew it. I knew it. Um, um, Everything was, clear commitment to excellence and communication, communicating everything was these are essential. And when my father gave me a bunch of stuff from General Electric that he had been given in the early years of his career, General Electric's ethos and mission statement was exactly this same kind of, that's what they were training their people to operate from. I worked outside the model. Um, and I beat the system. I ignored driving aggression. I would absolutely not exercise driving aggression, but I could, and I have a capacity to have like a invisible force field around me, so that when I would be challenged, which happened all the time, uh, regularly at least, why did I think again? I just wasn't going to have it. So I think that's really important to have that strong boundary of, who you are and how you operate, and that no one can challenge. And if they do, you'll leave or you'll fight it. I fought it at Businessland when that situation occurred. I wrote to the corporate director, but he didn't care. He didn't care that he had a salesperson whose manager wanted to take a huge account direct. He didn't care. So I left. And sometimes we have to make these very hard decisions. But I think it pays off in the end. I believe there is a huge bank account of positive energy that we deposit into and that we can draw from.
Yeah. And I really love what you said about that transparency. So, two things are aligning with me. One is you maintained who you are, the core integrity of who Holly is. And if it came to challenging situations that your values were not aligned in the direction of your job, your career, you left. And it's a hard decision to make. And at the same time, it builds the person you are. It builds towards creating that regret-free life as you look back upon it. Sometimes people look back at their decisions quite often. And then also, selling was not selling for you. It was
Yeah.
more like, I wouldn't offer to anyone else that I would not offer to myself. That is so powerful, Holly. So now coming back to how you reinvented, you said like, okay, I'm going to go write poetry. So tell us about your transition from the corporate world into being a poet.
I had been a writer in Fiji and to some extent in Phoenix as well, and an editor. And, I worked in that realm, but I never had a thought about poetry in my mind at all. And when I did that, when I called forth that epiphany experience, I waited for a week, and this voice in my head woke me up and said, "Where's your poetry?" And on a Monday morning, I said, "What? Where's your poetry?" I'm like, "I don't know. Why do we care where my poetry is? Go find your poetry." I'm like, okay. So I'd lost a disk drive. I'm fishing through files. Finally, I've kind of proudly got 5 scraps of paper. And the voice yelled at me. I mean, I'm not kidding. Cacophony. "You're 56 years old and you've only got 5 poems to your name?" And I was like, oh, what is happening? So I've gathered a smidge of poise and started typing, and I typed in my 5 poems. The first poem I wrote was Deconstruction, which is what I had done to make this opening. And I didn't stop writing for 3.5 days. I laid down 45 poems. And then I was off to Ireland, and I had this amazing experience. My son called and said, I told him the story. He was a Shakespearean actor in Dublin. I told him what happened. He's like, "Oh, so you're a poet, are you?" Well, that explains a lot. And I don't know what that means. But I wrote a poem for his acting teacher and read it at the posthumous tribute after she had passed in Dublin 3 weeks later, and had this remarkable experience receiving all this adulation from 300 people in the International Film Institute, and then read poetry all over Dublin. And after that, it rhymes in either the iambic or the Greek meter. I have no idea. I get the title, it comes through. So go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish it.
I have 150 poems, and I've read them for like 90. I've had 95 appearances reading or emceeing events and with my poetry, but I really recently, in the last 2 years ago, decided, you know what, my job, I said, why did it come to me? Why have I gotten all this poetry? And I thought, well, because you've got marketing. This is a voice that wants to get out. You know how to do that. So 2 years ago, I decided, well, you better do it, because you're going to run out of time here. And when my publishing company said we want it in 3 volumes, and I realized I had to have a thread, I realized I'd written about my journey through the patriarchy. Then I have written about an interrogation of patriarchal systems worldwide. And the third is the effervescent liftoff we get as women when we decondition. And it's all just beautiful, sort of life-enhancing poetry in the third, which was only the only thing I would ever read. I never intended the first two collect parts of the collection to ever be for public consumption. But I've gotten over my absolute terror of revealing so much, because when you read the patriarchal poetry, it's like, who wrote this? I'm sure. Who would? So putting out the journey part of my experience sort of explains how this collection manifested.
That's beautiful. So where can people find your poetries? Where can they find you?
I'm at hollyparsons.us. There's a lot up there. I do speak to this topic, and I workshop to this topic for creatives who want to unblock. The books are in production. It'll be a while, probably a year before they're really out, but they're done. I mean, obviously they're complete. It just takes forever to get things through publishing. You probably know that, right? God. So yes, please visit me at hollyparsons.us. Take a look at the journey. I've put poetry up there as well. And if you'd like to connect, reach out. I'd love to chat.
And do you want to read one of your poetries as we wrap up the show?
Yeah, sure.
The one that is a little short one.
Yes, of course. Let's go to, I'll read one of the patriarchal poems.
Whatever it
No,
feels
I'll
right
read.
for you.
Here, hold on, let's see. Something that'll be inspiring, and I'm looking at it right here. Let me figure it out. Oh boy, thank you for the invitation. I didn't expect it.
And I know, wonderful audience, this is a live show, and then sometimes, most of the times, I don't know what's going to show up for us in our conversation. And as you're talking about the reading and sharing, so if time permits, we will definitely do that. And I do want to share with y'all that you are the bane and the spine of our show, because wonderful audience, without you, the show would not be possible. So definitely reach out to us with whatever you are looking for in life and in questions you may have, so we can support you.
Well, thank you. This poem is called Gaia. It's at the end of the third book of inspirational poetry and joy, after you've sort of reformed oneself beyond the consensus thought and conditioning of patriarchy, right? It's called Gaia. Red suns surrender their light to billions of glistening, sparkling eyes that dance into centuries of epic dawns. On continents of beauty so profound, the sea strokes her edges with promises, formed into art from memories immortal. High above her icy ridges, an eagle circles the summit, calling forth secret colors and melodies that shield the heart from winter's chill. Dancers twirl and bow to the divine. Beauty aligns in mystical design. Musicians tap a primordial beat, flowing in rhythm, wrapped in heat. We are Gaia.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for reading that, Holly. We appreciate that.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for joining us. And thank you, Juan, for making the show technically possible. He's a tech genius. And let's all take that gratitude in with Gaia. That's our wonderful Mother Earth. And be bringing that gratitude in our lives, because each and every one of us have so much, and keep on growing into your potential. Take care, be well, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.